All right. Welcome to the Make Day. Today is the day we're going to make the art projects that we've got going on in our modules. We talked earlier this week about line and how we look at artwork and so forth and be respectful and all those good things. I'm going into our module 1 again, and we're going to go to page, I think it was 7. Let me look here. I believe that's where our first studio time is, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Yep, page 7. If you look on page 7 of the module, you'll find the studio time that we're going to do today. So what does the studio time have us doing? Well, if you'll recall, we're going to do 2 separate drawings of the exact same thing, but we're going to use 2 different mediums or 2 different art tools. So, just like this example from Vincent van Gogh, we're going to draw that same image twice. The first time we do it, we're going to use one type of medium, and the second time we do it, we're going to use a different type of medium. Now, I recommend you do maybe a light pencil sketch for each of these and try to make it look the same before you start using whatever medium you choose to use, so that you can have both drawings pretty much look exactly the same when they're finished. Just be done in 2 different mediums. Now, in this example, we're looking at a painting by Vincent van Gogh on the left that's done using pen and ink. He took a pen, dipped it into the well of ink, and he made all those little lines that create these textures we see in this image on the left. We see all those little buildings in the background. We can tell that little silhouette of the buildings because it's darker, and we can even see some windows in there. We see those buildings are all geometric shapes, and we see the light sky behind it, which makes those buildings kind of silhouette and pop out. We see those textures created of grasses here coming towards us, and even some little texture created by those lines that create, looks like smoke coming out of those smokestacks. If we look at the image on the right, though, it's the exact same image. He's looking at the exact same little city, but it's very different because this time he's used oil paint. He's done an oil painting on canvas. So the texture of the grass, he's recreated those same little lines and recreated that same grassy texture. We can see what's going on there, but he's done it with paint, so it looks very different. It's got that gold yellow hue to it. Very nice. We can see the bright red rooftops. That makes some cool interest going on there in the center that we don't have in that drawing on the left. You can't hardly notice those rooftops on the left. And we can also see even some highlights on those buildings and the reflection on the light being reflected on them in the background. Beautiful painting. But the same image done in 2 different mediums. That's what we're going to do today. So you can choose any 2 mediums that you would like to choose. If you haven't already assembled your mediums, this is a good time to press pause and go find your 2 favorite things that you have to paint with or draw with. Now, as always, I want to always tell you some different alternatives from what the lesson might recommend. I believe they recommend doing it maybe in pastels and watercolors. Well, there's a good chance you don't have pastels, or you might not have watercolors, or you might not have either. So you could do it in pencil. You could do it in pen. You could do it in marker. You could do it in colored pencil. You could do it in crayon. You could do it in pastels, color sticks, watercolors. Anything that you can make a mark with around your house, you can pretty much use. You can even take a little cap full, and when I say a cap, like a cap off a water bottle, you can put a little water in it with a drop or 2 of food coloring and create even watercolor with that. So any type of 2 different mediums you're going to use, okay? All right. So I'm going to show you a couple programs today, or a program in particular, that you can do a lot of your homework assignments on and create the work using your Chromebook, using your PC, your Mac, any type of laptop that you might have or computer. You can use these. They're all internet-based. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to go to the top here, and I'm going to open up a window. And in my Google, I'm going to search for something called Chrome Canvas. So I'm going to type in Chrome, or I'm going to write in Chrome. All right. I'm going to hit my enter button there. Search for that, please. Thank you. Chrome Canvas is the first thing that comes up. When you do anything on Chrome Canvas, it's going to save all your projects online. These are some of the things I've been working on most recently. It uses the properties of layers and does all kinds of cool stuff. I'm going to start a new image from a little drawing I did, a little sketch on my phone, and I did a screenshot of it and send it to myself so I can use it for our demonstration today. It's a simple little sketch of my daughter holding her little puppy. Ain't he cute? Ain't she cute? And they're kind of cute right now, but they're about to get a lot cuter because I'm going to start adding some value and creating some textures and so forth using line. So I'm going to first open up my photo that I'm working from here. You can't see me doing this, I don't guess, because my camera's not on. But give me 1 second. All right. So now you should have your images in front of you to work from. So you may not be working from a photograph. Hopefully, you're working from a live drawing that still life or something that you've assembled to draw. So now that you've got your two favorite drawing mediums hopefully together, you're going to try to figure out, what am I going to draw, Mr. Mcguire? Well, I'm drawing my little girl and her dog, but you probably don't want to do a portrait. You might do a landscape like Vincent van Gogh did, looking out your window. It's probably too cold to sit outside and draw, but you can look out your window and draw what you see. I recommend, though, that you find, and I think this is what the lesson recommends in the module, find 2 or 3 objects that you like. And when I say objects, you might find a teddy bear, stuffed animal, an old shoe that they think has a really cool shape, or your favorite pair of boots, maybe your diary or some type of jewelry box. Something that has some simple shape to it that you can easily draw and you feel confident drawing. But just a couple things. Don't get too many things because you don't want to make it more complicated than it needs to be. We're not really exploring their drawing skills as much as we're going to be exploring how the two different mediums work and look. Okay. So now you've probably pressed pause again because you've probably gone and said, okay, I've got my materials together. Now I've got the image I'm going to draw, or I've got my still life stuff together. Now I'm ready to draw. All right. So hopefully you've got 2 pieces of paper or whatever the little substrates, and that's when I say substrate, that's whatever we are making art on. If we're screen pinning, the substrate might be a t-shirt. If we're doing a painting, it might be a canvas. If we're doing a drawing, it might be a piece of paper. And in this case, for me, it's my computer screen. And so I'm showing you this program called Canvas app, and you can use this to do a lot of your different assignments that you have. Okay, so first, a couple of things I want to show you about. It has in the top right over here, this little, looks like a little square on top of a square. That is your layers. And so what I've done is I've put that drawing on my first layer there so I can kind of use it as a base sketch. But I'm going to draw over it. I'm just using it to kind of give me some reference. Then I've created a second layer. If I want to, I can create a third layer, okay? And so I'm going to go into my first layer here, or my layer I've created, and I'm going to start adding some lines to create value. Now, I want to do this in 2 different mediums, but I'm doing it in the same program. Well, I'm going to look over here at my tools. So I've got all kinds of little tools. There's a pencil tool, there's a pen tool, there's a marker tool, there's a pastel or chalk tool, and there's an eraser tool. Up here, I've got a size selector. I can decide how large or small I want it to be. And here, I've got a palette selector. I can either select one of these colors or go to that what we call the infinite color selector, where we can just span through this entire range of color and find just about any color we could possibly want. All right, so I'm going to start with my first color over here. Oh, nope, not this one. The first one I'm going to do is only black and white. And it's going to be in this pencil. Thank you. I'm about to have to remind myself there. All right. So not only can I turn the size down, but I can turn down the opacity. Let me turn this up so see what I mean by that. So that dot is really big, right? And so if I change the opacity, I'm changing. You can see it get lighter or darker. I'm changing how opaque it is or how transparent it is with this little mark here. So I'm going to go with somewhere in the middle because I like for my lines to be sort of like a regular pencil line and get darker as I overlay them. I'm also going to turn this size down so that I'm not making giant marks. I'm going to make small marks. Okay, so if I go up into her hair here, I'm going to start creating a little bit of value. And I'm going to start sort of right here just to kind of test out how my pencil's working and if it's giving me the value I'd like. And I'm going to already know I want to turn that opacity up just a little bit. I'm going to turn my size up just a hair. All right. And try this again. Yeah, I like that a little better already. Now, everybody's is going to be a little different. You're going to set yours up differently than I might set mine up. Now, these programs will work with your mouse or your keyboard. You can also, if you have a drawing stylus, a drawing tablet, you can attach those to your Chromebooks and use it with this program as well. Now, you won't have your pressure sensitivities and some of that fancy stuff that happens with more advanced programs. But let's bear in mind this is absolutely free, and it's all web-based. You don't have to download anything onto your computer. And so one of the things I'm doing here is I'm creating value. Value is how light or how dark something is. And the way I'm creating value here is by drawing lines over top each other. One over top another, over top another. And I'm just kind of trying to create the texture of hair. So when we talk about texture, there's a couple of things you should understand. There can be real texture and what we call implied texture. And so what I'd like for you to do right now is stop and touch your hair. You feel that? That's the actual texture of hair. That hair on your head is your actual hair, and it feels like hair because it's a real texture. Now, I am trying to make an implied texture or a texture that looks like hair. If we look at it, if we touched it, we would hope it would look like it would feel like hair. All right. So that's kind of what I'm doing. That's what I'm trying to make little individual hairs that help create the impression of that texture, that implied texture of hair. And again, now you might have uh, a um, a rock that you've chosen to draw, and maybe it's got a cool texture you're trying to recreate. Maybe you've got a box or something that you're drawing, and maybe it's got a super. I'm going to zoom in here so I can see a little better what I'm doing. But maybe you've got a really cool box with a smooth surface on it, and you're going to try to recreate that smooth surface and make it look smooth. So I'm going to put her eyeballs in there. I'm going to give her just a little bit of value here in the iris there, that little color that goes around. And if you can see, I'm making the value darker here because that's sort of the inside of the eye, and hers is kind of open a little more. I'm going to do that. All right, I'm going to come over here and kind of do the same. Give it a little value here. A little darker here. Let's darken this up. All right. So again, I'm just doing a simple drawing here using a pencil. You might be using pencil at home. Now, of course, mine's a computer pencil, but it's a pencil all the same. It's working the same way. I've got mine set to about an HB hardness, which would be about the same as your number 2 pencil if you've got a regular number 2 pencil. I'm going to create a little value here. Now, if we got lines going in one direction, that's called hatching. If I bring some lines, come back over and go the other direction, that's called cross-hatching. So that's one of the types of lines that artists use, and it's really one of the more popular types of lines that artists use. So I'm just kind of creating a little value here, trying to show that this area of her face is in shadow. All right. And I like to start with my darkest areas first. Then there's her eyebrow. All right. Eyebrow kind of comes like that. She's got another one over here. All right. And there's a little value under the bottom of her nose here. And again, real light value here. And her little mouth is in shadow here. And that makes her little cheeks kind of pop out a little bit. Getting those shadows right is what's going to regardless of the shape. And when you're drawing, you always want to think about those simple shapes first. So how can I start with like maybe a square, something round, or something rectangle or something triangle. But think about those real simple basic shapes first, and then start trying to find the shadows and the areas that make those details and make it look that give it that shape of whatever it is. And so for me, I'm looking to try to find as many of these shapes that sort of make her little smile here. And if I get them right, it'll look a lot more like her than if I don't. And of course, she's got this real dark area under the lip here, into the mouth. And I'm going to bring this over here. And this kind of goes up. She's got a nice big smile. And you can kind of see a little space in between where her teeth are just coming in. She's lost, I'm sure you all are in the same boat. She's losing her teeth and lost some of them. She's in fourth grade, getting her adult teeth in. Like I said, you all are familiar with all that. All right. So I'm just kind of finishing up, and I'm just going to add a little more value in here, just a little bit. And I'm really not going to spend a ton of time trying to get this looking perfect because this is just a pencil sketch. This is my first medium is simply pencil sketch, and this is the type of sketch that I might do before I started a painting of her, which I'm actually going to do here in a few days, and you'll see that in a few days. I'll start an actual little digital painting of this same image, and I'll use these little drawings I'm doing today as reference, whether it's for how I intend to use color and that sort of thing, or how I intend to use line. I might find some stuff I do in line here that I really like, and I might find some areas that I didn't quite like so much, and ways I can do it a little better next time. And that's one reason we sketch and we work out some of these ideas. And she's got a little more value here on this side of her head. All right. There's a little cheek action going on there. A little bit of value, a little shadow from the hairs in there. And her neck's in a little shadow there. Okay, I'm going to zoom out and see how much I like it, if I'm happy with it enough. Okay, that's coming along. Look, now you're saying, why does her hair look so messy? This was Christmas morning. Well, the day after Christmas morning, actually. All right. All right. And so now I'm going to start adding a little value down here on this little Bubba dog. And he's mostly black. He's got a little brown on him, but I'm going to go ahead and start. His little head's black. He's cute as can be. I think if you were here for the meet and greet, you got to see him. I introduced him to you. And you'll see him. You probably saw him earlier this week. I'm sure I probably showed you to him when we come to do the class on the first day of the week, or the first meeting of the week. All right. So I'm adding value. And again, I'm using a lot of cross hatching. Again, that cross hatching is when you got lines that come in one direction and lines that go back over in another direction. This dog has the biggest ears you've ever seen. He's what we call a basset hound. And basset hounds have really big ears. Really long ears. Most hound dogs have pretty long ears, but I think bassets have maybe the longest ears of just about any dog on earth. There used to be a shoe company called Hush Puppy Shoes, and their little mascot was a basset, and on every shoebox you got a little picture of a little basset hound. They're really cute. All right, he's got this little black nose. And I'm going to add some more value to this ear over here because it's really black. Really dark. And again, every time I lay over, I'm creating hatching and cross-hatching marks. And each time I hatch more over the other ones below, it adds more value. It gets a little darker. Remember, value is how light or how dark something is. All right. So I'm kind of just finishing up this little bit of value. He's got a white spot here on his little side. It's cute. And he's got his little paws. Alright, his little paws are mostly white. All right, so that's kind of the little dog, and I might add a little more detail here before we move on. But and his little, I'm gonna come back over there because his little head is very dark. This is all very dark, and then he's got a little bit of brown kind of right here, so it's a little bit of value there. That's gonna make me put my eye back in a little darker, show my shadows there. He's got this cool little stripe that kind of comes up on the front of his nose. It's real cute. All right, and I've just about got all the detail I wanted him because again, this is just a quick little pencil sketch to see kind of what this would look like if I did just nothing more than a pencil drawing of it. Okay, and now I'm putting the little fingers in here. All right, and her little fingers kind of do a little thing like that because she's holding him weird. All right, and just real quick, I'm gonna add a little value in here in between her fingers because there's space in between them, and that's why they look real and not fake. All right, let's get that in there. All right, and I'm putting the last little bit of value. This is a value drawing, a drawing that just shows those areas of lights and darks and kind of help me understand as I do the regular painting how this is all going to look. And I'm going to, her little pajamas are sort of a pink with these little Eeyores on them and sort of a light purple, and I'm just going to represent that value with that sort of shade of line there. All right, so this is my first one, and this one is a simple pencil sketch. So now I want to do it in another medium. So what's my next medium going to be? I think I want to use this chalk down here, and I want to do a chalk drawing over it. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go, a new drawing, please. And if you notice, let me go back again. There's that drawing on the top left that I just finished. It automatically saves it for me. So I'm going to go back from new. Oop, and again, I keep forgetting I need to do from new from image because I'm going to start with that same basic sketch again. Only this time, like I said, I'm going to start adding some color. And I want to add color using pastels. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just really lightly start adding a little color into this drawing, and I'm going to start with this. Let's see, there we go. Her little pajamas, and they're sort of a pink about this color, and so I'm just going to kind of real quickly start putting in some pastel. And really, this is like a charcoal pastel. All right. And so I'm just going to add a little color there. If you never worked with chalk pastels, I love chalk pastels. And these work a lot like chalk pastels. If you see, as I go over the same area more than once, it creates another darker value. Uh-oh. So I did something I didn't like there. I got too much in on that puppy dog. So I hit that top little back arrow that goes backwards, and that erased what I did there. So now I gotta go back and put some more color back in there where I want it. All right. So, and here under her arm, it's dark. So look, I'm gonna go back over it again. I can create that cross hatching even with the pastel, the chalk. All right. So I've kind of got the pink where I want it. I might put a little here to show her arm was pink. Then I mentioned that those little Eeyores are sort of a purplish color, and I'm going to kind of go with something a little more in the blue range, just so it'll have a little contrast. And that's a little dark, so I'm going to go with this one, and turn that down a little bit. And I want to do a little blue to show the pattern where on her pajamas there was these little Eeyores, and there's one under here, and his arm was kind of one, really. All right, so something like that. Oh, there's a little bit of. I'll go back here and get me the pink I like. Thank you. There we go. I'll put a little pink right here because that's a little pink under it. All right. Now, let's look at that puppy dog. Remember what color was he? Mostly black. But I don't want to choose just a real plain black. I kind of want like a brownish black. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pick somewhere. And if you can see the little crayon itself, it sort of changes the color that it's going to be in. And I kind of like that. So I'm going to come in here and start adding this sort of brown black. It's not an actual black. It's just a dark color. And again, just like the pencil, as I make those cross hatch marks, those marks that go over each other back and forth, as you can see, it starts getting darker in dark areas. And it's lighter if I only go over it once. But if I go over it 2 or 3 times, it gets darker. His little ears are real dark here on the side. And they kind of come up. And gosh, he's such a cute little puppy. Don't y'all just love puppies? Puppies are the best. He's got a little puppy breath. Can't say I love that all the time. It's pretty cute. All right. And he's kind of got like a little black there. And he's got kind of a little bit that comes down over on his nose a little bit. He's got these little rolls that come over here. And let's do his nose sort of in this black. And again, I can change the size of my pastel. But I'm really not worried as much about getting super detail here. I can come back in and add a little more detail. And I might do that here in a minute with a smaller. And imagine if you had a piece of chalk. What often do is use a little piece of sandpaper and sand it down to a sort of a fine little point, if you will. And that way you can um, create areas. Let me put that are much finer in detail. You can sharpen, if you will, those pastels down to a fine point. And he's got a little brown here on his arms, his little, his little area there. And I put a little too much there. I'll get rid of that. All right, let's go there. Okay. Now, before I start adding more details, I want to get a little color in her face. And so I'm going to go with a real... She's kind of pale, but she's not pink. Let's see. Well, so flesh tones are hard to pick on an infinite selector because it's hard to determine exactly where that flesh is that you want. And for me, I like to do a sort of a warmer tone underneath and then bring a more neutral or cool tone over. And so I'm going with this as the basic base tone for her color. Now, this is just allows me to show how rosy her cheeks are and everything. But I'm going to bring my highlights over it in just a moment. And if you can see I've got it turned the transparency down a little bit so that I can see those lines underneath of it real good. All right. And so I'm going to pick something a little lighter and this time a little what I would call fleshier, or something a little more neutral or sort of towards that beigey and not so rosy. Now, her little cheeks are rosy, so I'm going to kind of leave some of that in that rosiness in her cheeks. And her little nose has sort of got a little of that redness to it. And her little chin. And so I'm going to leave some of that, but I kind of like what I've got going on there. All right. Let's not forget her hand here. She's got this. Right now, her hand looks like a baseball mitt. I'm just going to add a little value there. And again, I'll come back in and put in a little more detail soon. Let's just add just a little bit of warmth to that. All right. So let's go up here and choose for the hair color. Oh, 1 second. I'm going to choose sort of a darker color here. Again, I like to work my darks underneath and then bring the lights back over top. But she's got area of dark that's kind of in this area and a little bit kind of down in here. And this is sort of dark here where it's not getting a lot of light, kind of lights behind her a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of draw. But now again, you're going to pay attention to light differently. You're not probably drawing a person, or you might be. But whatever you're drawing, you're going to pay attention to how that value is reflected. Now again, I'm going to try to create that texture of hair a little bit. So I'm going to bring this, let's go a little more towards the yellow. There we go. All right, so now I'm kind of finishing up her hair a little bit here. All right. And I'm just got a real sort of roughed in pastel. And so I might use these two drawings again as I start looking at how I'm going to do my final painting of this subject matter later. And so I'm going to look at, real quick, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to look at how small I can make that. Let's make it small, 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 small. So we're going to, even though it's still pastel, and we're going to change bring the opacity a little bit, because now I'm going to start adding a little details. And so I'm going to go with sort of, again, I want a dark color, but I don't want it to be black. So kind of like that. I'm going to come in here and add a little value to her eyes. I'm going to darken that area again. All right, I'm going to find those darker values that I see. Again, adding those little shadow areas. And I'm building in layers. We're building up. You know, we've got that base layer with sort of our drawing, and now we're adding those different layers of color, looking for the value, the dark areas, and then finally we'll find our final light areas and sort of finish it up. And so I'm just trying to find where those areas of value are, and then I'm going to turn my opacity down just a little bit here as I add a little more value. Right now I'm trying to find where those values really pop in. And let's bring this up here. She's got that little values that happen in there. All right. All right. Now I'm ready to start finding some of my my medium medium shadow area. So I'm going to go something like that. And I'm also going to turn my opacity down just a little bit. And that way I can come over here and do this number. And it doesn't add too much value too quickly. And so I'm just adding a little value to show that, again, this side of her face, it's in shadow. And the way we're going to show that is by adding a little bit of darker value over there. And down the ridge of her nose, it's a little darker. And under the nose here, it's kind of darker. And then let's not forget, people have nostrils. She's got little nostrils. All right. And again, I'm going to bring in a little finer, just to add a little more detail here in just a minute, because I really want to pop in a little detail here. So I'm going to add the last of my little value, maybe here in her chin. And under her neck, there's going to be a lot of value here because her head provides shadow down on her neck area. I'm going to make this a little darker here. She's got this little area here above her lip. I see a little shadow. And again, I'm just looking for those darker areas that I can see and add in a little value. Now, again, your drawing is going to be what you chose to draw. But you're going to have it in two different mediums the same way I've done. And so now I'm going to come up here. And I'm going back to that pencil. And I'm going to turn the size up on it just a little bit. I'm going to turn the opacity up just a little bit. And I'm going to go with that real darker value just to kind of pop in. Oh, and again, I'm a little large on my size there. Here we go. And let's just pop in a little bit. Oh, I don't like that line I created. We'll get rid of that. All right. Putting in that final shape of the nose kind of there. See if I can get a shape I'm happy with. Oh yeah, I kind of like that. There we go. A little more value there. So now I'm beginning to get a little drawing that I'm happy enough with, that I feel like I can use to kind of start getting my painting ready to go. Let's go with this here. She's got a pretty little pink lips. So I'm gonna add a little value, a little color to her lips here. I'm going to zoom out and kind of see what I've got. So this is the drawing in pastels. Kind of gives us an idea of what the drawing would look like in pastels. Again, I can go back here and look at them side by side, what my pastel versus what my pencil drawing looked like. And those are my two examples for this week's lesson. So I hope you guys had fun. I hope you're enjoying your drawings. You're probably not done. I hope you're not done. You're working hard. Keep working, and I look forward to seeing you in class soon. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.